In this House of Logic video, we're going to demonstrate how you can use Windows Deployment Server to deploy Windows VMs into Proxmox. Now, to start off with, what you're going to need is a Windows Deployment Server to be set up, and you're going to need some installation images. So we have within this environment an Active Directory domain controller, and joined to that we have a Windows Deployment Server, which is here and has an IP address of 192.168.5.177, and you'll see why that's important in a moment. So what you need to do is you need to get hold of the Windows image if you are testing this out. So by Windows image I mean the actual ISO for installing Windows, and what you're going to do is you're going to go through, and I've already done this, is you're going to go and add it into installation images, and we've already created an image group. And effectively what you do is you go and you go into the mounted up image, and you can do this if you are running the whole thing in Proxmox excuse me, by attaching the image onto the CD-ROM drive of the Windows Deployment Server host. You're then going to go into the sources directory, and you can find the install.wim, and then that will go through and give you the option. Now, I'm actually not going to complete that. Hopefully that's going to allow me to cancel. If not, I'm going to do a very quick video edit, and what you will then do is exactly the same on the boot images. Okay, so we'll cancel that. Yes, we want to stop adding images. So we've already got some Windows images here, and we've got the Windows 2019 server, and these are all on the evaluation ISO, so I've not had to use a Windows key for any of this stuff. It will just stop working after 6 months. So the Windows boot image there, so you've got the Windows setup image, and again, it's exactly the same process. You go off, you browse, you find the boot.wim, and you set that up. It is worth mentioning, because this is relevant later in the video, that if you want to, you can create custom images, but you have to capture those from the virtual machine essentially, and those would have you would then have the benefit of having additional drivers. The purpose of this video is to show how you can actually do this without needing to customize the image. So when you've got all of this set up, and you know what the IP address of the virtual machine is, what you then need to do, and you may not be able to do this on every network, is you need to go and configure your DHCP scope. Now in my case I'm using a MikroTik device, and for the DHCP server on the 192.168.5.0 network, I've gone to the DHCP network, and I've been able to set the next server IP address to 5.177, and the boot file name, which is boot x64 and wdsnbp.com, and that relates on the deployment server, if I can find the window again, to the directory that you'll find when it has imported. So there is a remote installation, and there is a boot folder, and within there you have this wdsnbp, which effectively is the boot file that it is looking for. So we don't need to go back onto there. As I said, you may not be able to do this on everything. There are ways to run the MikroTik environment within Proxmox, which I think I'm going to be covering soon in another video. So once you've got this all set up, or equivalent on whatever it looks like on your router, then or rather on your DHCP server and network device, then you should be good to go. Now back into Proxmox, and what you need to do within here is quite specific. So you need to go and create a virtual machine, and you can give it a name. So we would call this WDS test, and then we can go next. Now you can choose not to use any media because you aren't going to, and we are choosing Windows, and in our case we're choosing Windows 2019. Next on the system page, again, this is about a configuration that works rather than you always have to use this. Excuse me. So we're going to go with the actual default i440FX, default of CBIOS, and then for the SCSI controller, what we're going to choose in there is also the default. So we're not going to choose VirtIO. We are going to tick the Qemu agent because then we don't have to bother ticking it later, but it's not going to install the Qemu or VirtIO drivers as part of this installation. Next, on disks, what I found to be successful is actually to choose the SATA disk, and we're going to choose the, in our case, the write back unsafe option, just because it's going to speed it up, but that's up to you as to what the cache option you want to set is. On the CPU page, you need to choose what you want in terms of the sockets and cores. We're just going to go with 1 socket, 2 cores. And for the CPU, I tend to just choose host because it's the host level pass-through. And we can then go next. Memory, again, it's up to you. I'd go with at least 2 gig on a Windows server. For network, this is somewhere else you have to be quite specific. So some of the network drivers don't work out of the box without having additional, or network options don't work without additional drivers in Windows. So we're going to choose the RTL8139 because that's been around forever. I did try the Intel one as well. It wasn't successful. For the networking actual VLAN, you want to choose the network which is on the same VLAN effectively as your deployment server, and which has access to the DHCP scope, or it simply won't work, it won't boot. So you can now go to the next page, you can confirm the details, and what you want to do on your machine when it becomes available to you is you want to go and check the boot order, just to make sure that the SATA disk that you put in the list is in the boot order. Otherwise, again, this won't work. Okay, so we do have SATA, we have IDE 2, and we've got network 0 effectively as the last option. So hopefully, when we start this up now, this should allow us to actually get going. So we're going to open up the console, and we're going to hit start. So as it comes up, wait for the iPixie to show up, excuse me, and you can see there the details. So I pressed F12, and you can see there the details that it was actually picking up the information from the Windows deployment server. So it shows boot.wim, although it does need you to configure with the WDS NBP file. And this is going to take a few moments to load up the boot image, essentially, before we can continue with the installation. So I'll pause and wait for this to complete. Okay, so it has finished with that initial stage, and it should now be bringing up the installation process on here, which hopefully we'll just catch now. Okay, yep, setup is starting. Good. Right, I will once again pause and wait for this process to complete. Okay, so that didn't take long. So we've got the deployment services installation started up. Need to choose the type of keyboard so that it doesn't garble any password characters. You can then click next, and at this point you're going to, in my case, because I'm using an Active Directory joined a deployment server, I need to log in using a domain admin to the deployment server. Hopefully that, yes, there we go, that's correct. Now you can choose the OS image, so this directly corresponds to the images that you have imported. We're just going to go with Windows 2019 Server Standard, and we can then hit next. And this is the key stage here. So if you get to this point and you don't see anything in terms of available disks, then your process is not going to work, and you're going to either need to install additional drivers. Obviously, we're trying to do the whole thing here from the network, but you could alternatively configure the VM with an additional ISO for the VirtIO drivers, etc. And you should at this point be able to mount those up. We don't need to. We're going to choose the unallocated space, which will then take us through the process of installing and can create partitions, etc., etc. So basically at this point, let's leave this running. I will pause the video. This should go all the way through, and at the end of the process it should boot up. So I'm going to pause here and we'll see where we get to. Okay, so we have got as far as the actual OS setup. So we simply need to choose where we are and keyboard layout, and then we should be prompted. Yeah, there we go, license terms. We're prompted for an administrator password, and that will quickly restart, and then hopefully that should be it, and we can have a quick look at the devices once we boot up and confirm that everything is present as expected. So by setting the boot order with the disk as the first boot device and the network as I think the last one in this case, what it means of course is that when you first go through the installation, it won't find the disk as having anything on it. It will then fall back on the IDE and the network boot, can boot from the network and then basically complete the process, and then when it comes back around again to reboot, the disk has got something on it, so it's able to boot up, and you don't even need to necessarily turn off the network boot option. So let's log in, and we should be able to then quickly launch the device manager and go and have a look. Okay, so we're going to allow the this machine to talk to the rest of the network. So it's just taking a couple of minutes here to load all the necessary OS bits. If we go into computer management, we'll go that way through. Okay, and under device manager, hopefully in here. Okay, so we do have a couple of PCI devices missing, so we may want to have a more detailed look at those, but certainly as you can see we have managed to get the OS stood up without needing to plug in any IDE devices. So I'm not sure what those actually are at the moment. They might not even be relevant and something that can be effectively detached from Proxmox. But I may have a bit of a dig into that and report back as to what they are. So I'm going to stop the video there. Hopefully that has been of some use. Please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks very much. Bye now.